Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Divesoft TV. I'm your host, Joe Bosquez, and today what we're going to be talking about is how to convert your Divesoft Liberty in the back mount counterlungs configuration to the Liberty side mount configuration. We're also going to talk about in this episode, why would you want to convert your primary unit into another different configuration? How can I find the conversion kit online? And what is in the specific side mount conversion kit, and then how do I go about doing that, from the steps all the way from your diving back mount counterlung unit all the way to the side mount unit. So let's dive in. Why do I need to convert my rebreather into a different configuration? So something that we all kind of realize is that there are so many different environments that are underwater, and for all of those different environments it's good to be in a different configuration, or you want to use the best tool for the job, correct? And so sometimes in caves you want to be in side mount, sometimes jumping off a boat you want to be in back mount. And so the folks over at Divesoft wanted to create a very versatile platform like the Liberty Rebreather so that you can configure it into the unit that you want for the type of diving that you do. With this conversion kit, where you can find it is on our website on divesoft.com on our Liberty configurator. There we have a special spot for the configurators of whichever conversion you want to go. So if you're going from the Liberty back mount to the Liberty side mount, if you're going from the Liberty side mount to a back mount unit, all those different configuration kits or conversion kits are there on the configurator on our website. So that gives us the biggest tool to build our unit into whichever type of configuration that we want and that we can use for the diving that we do. Alright guys, so now what I have sprawled out on the desk is all of the components that you will need for your side mount conversion and what is included in the conversion kit minus your Liberty head, and you could have your standard scrubber here. Something that's really good with our Liberty systems is that you can use the standard size scrubber, which is this guy what I have here in my hand. You can use this standard scrubber that goes for your back mount unit, or you can use the shortened scrubber. It's still the 5.5 pounds, but this guy has a little bit better buoyancy characteristics because the water trap is just a sponge, versus on our standard scrubber you have the much larger water trap inside. So I prefer to go with the smaller scrubber. It's still 5.5 pounds, but its buoyancy characteristics in the water are a little bit better. And then obviously on the conversion kit, the Liberty head is not included on the unit because you already have one for your Liberty back mount unit. Now to go over the parts, I'm going to kind of twist this guy up. So something that is different is the heads-up display cable. This heads-up display cable will be you'll have a second one that'll be longer for your side mount unit to go from the back mount to the side mount unit. Set this guy off to the side. And then what's in your conversion kit is our skid, which is our titanium frame. It's going to be configured with bolt snaps already. Remember, all the Liberty rebreathers are going to come ready to dive. And then it's going to have our 2 Apex flight first stage regulators are going to be part of this kit. And then you have your titanium frame, with all the buckles and straps and everything you need to build the unit. Now remember, when you dive on the side mount configuration, there is a crossover class that is required in order to dive from the back mount to the side mount, because it is a different style of diving. There's different skills that are involved, and so it's important to remember that this will be with a class as well, even if you have been diving side mount open circuit for many years, or even on a different side mount rebreather. So that's very important to keep in mind. So we have our conversion kit. The unit will also come with 2 2-liter cylinders that are designed to fit perfectly well in this cradle. Got my diluent, and then I have my oxygen right here as well, so you can see that we have them. And then we have our counterlungs. So in just a minute we'll go through and build everything, but this is all the different components that come as part of your kit. And then we have these two important S hoses. This is the inhale side. The inhale side is a little bit longer, and this is the exhale side. Now it's always really important to inspect your hoses, because over time they can rub up against the heads-up display or the buddy display module. So you can have a little bit of friction and rubbing on these things, so it's important to remember to take a look at them. See, one of them's quite short and one of them's a little bit longer. And then we have our mouthpiece. We have our breathing loop mouthpiece. I'll move this guy a little bit out of the way so that you guys can see him. Nice and neat. So we have our breathing loop. So remember, the gas flows from the inhale side all the way to the exhale side. And then in this configuration, we have our dive surface valve, our DSV. If you already have the DSV for your back mount unit, you can have a DSV for your side mount unit as well, or that you can interchange them as well. We do not really put the bailout valve on the side mount unit. It makes it really bulky and doesn't seem to work too well, but we traditionally use the DSV with the side mount unit. We have our mushroom valves here in the DSV, and we have our manual addition valves here. We have the diluent MAV and we have the oxygen MAV. And then we also have our membrane ADV, our T-piece ADV, except this is not a T-piece, it's an inline ADV. You can see it's a different configuration than if you were diving with the back mount counterlungs. So, and then this configuration comes without an inline shutoff. Now you can choose to have it with an inline shutoff, but it is important to remember that if you're diving the unit as a bailout rebreather, having an inline shutoff in your ADV can be problematic, because you could accidentally close the ADV while you're descending, and if you're not breathing on the rebreather, it could cause damage. So that's important to remember how you're diving the configuration. So what I do is I have it without an inline shutoff, and I'm good. And then finally, I already kind of talked about this for a little bit, but I'll bring it up so you guys can see it. This is the extra small scrubber, or just a smaller scrubber. It's still 5.5 pounds. Make sure nothing falls. We got the nice logo on the back, real pretty. I call it the Divesoft bongo drums. And then if you have our standard scrubber, it's a little bit different. You still have that steel mesh, but you don't have that plastic section on top, that spacer. It's going to be all stainless steel mesh, and it's still that radial scrubber that we know and love. And then we have this piece down at the bottom. All right, and these are the pieces that come with the Liberty side mount conversion kit. And our next step, what we're going to do is we're going to build the unit up. All right, so now what do I have from my back mount unit that I need for my side mount conversion? So really the only thing that we need if we go with the small scrubber is the Liberty head itself. And so that's what I have here. I removed my bumper plate, and I also removed my second handset. Now normally what I would do is I would take my heads-up display, swap it, make sure I have the side mount heads-up display on, and then I would move it to the left CU. Why do I want to have it on the left CU and the buddy light on the right CU? Well, if I'm diving with my right handset on and I remove my left handset, I still need to monitor the left CU. So how do I do that? I take my heads-up display and I put it over here. Or if you have the Divesoft ODA, the ODA, that will also work really, really well, and you'll also be able to see your nitrogen tissue loading because you're not unable to see that from your heads-up display. So really this is the only thing that you need from your back mount unit for your side mount unit. And then the banjo will be configured going up, and so it'll be rotated 360 degrees, because for back mount the banjo needs to be configured down. So the first step, what I do is I have my scrubber. It's going to be nice and packed, ready to go diving. For today's video, it's not packed or anything. And then you will be using your Divesoft checklist on your Divesoft app in order to walk you step by step on of building the side mount unit. So I install my head to my scrubber, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these S hoses, and I'm going to have, remember, they have labeling on them, so I can see C right. C does not stand for head. So we have H rim, H stands for head, C stands for counter lung. So H rim, I'm gonna line up the dots. And then H center, gonna line up the dots here as well. Push that guy in, and I'm gonna rotate opposite of the arrows. Remember, it's gonna make this V shape on here. And then it's no problem running the cables like this from the right side, or if I really want to, I can run one in the middle and one on the outside of it. Next, now that I have this built, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move on to the frame. So a couple of important things to remember about the side mount frame. First, we always want to check the Velcro. Velcro has a little bit of a fatigue property in water and in all the kind of crazy environments us divers like to go into. So it's always good to make sure that the Velcro is nice and healthy. If you ever need any replacement straps, just give us a call or go onto our eShop. We have everything available on there. But something that I like to talk about quite often are these pins. So these are the locking pins of the side mount frame. These pins are really important because it holds the head and the plenum. It keeps the pressure on them, so it's important to make sure that they're in great shape. Okay, so as we're following our checklist, our oxygen cylinder is fitted to the diver's or to the unit's right side. Go ahead, I'm going to fit that in there. You see, I'm not tightening down the straps too tight yet. I'm just making everything nice and loose. I'm going to remove all of my caps. And I'm going to install the oxygen. Now, with our new electronics, we are able to use transmitters, and so there's a couple of ways, and you can choose whether or not you want to have the transmitters included with your unit with its 2021 electronics. You can either have the transmitters installed directly to the first stages, or you can put them on a right angle, or you can even put them on a high pressure hose. Kind of whatever you prefer to do for your type of diving, or kind of what your instructor recommends that you do. So then I have my diluent installed. You can see I go ahead and install the cylinder to the first stage. And because we're making this for a demo video, I've got my demo Liberty head in a dive mode. So if you guys hear that solenoid firing, that's what it is. That's what she's doing. Right, so now I make sure I have my oxygen solenoid hose, I have my 2 pressure gauges, and then I have my ADV hose. So I have everything set up there. And then next what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the head and scrubber into the system. Once I have the head and plenum in the locking pins, then I'm going to push down on the head, and I'm going to make sure this guy is nice and tight. And it's tight, tight, and then I can rotate the unit, and I can make sure that I'm here inside those grooves. just like the top, just like the head strap, I'm going to make sure this rear strap is nice and tight. All right, so make sure I have everything that's loose and free. Make sure my handset and my heads up display are moving forward. And then I'm going to make sure you guys can see the next thing. What I'm going to do, so our newest generation of counter lungs has these side clips that attach to the frame here rather than these Velcro straps. The unit that I have here is our first generation. So I'm going to line up the dots, and then I'm going to install it. And you can see that it's kind of inverted in this position. And then I'm going to rotate it. And then, so I can make sure that you guys see. There we go, I'm all locked in. And then I'm going to rotate the counterlung ring inboard, and I'm going to rotate the S-hose outboard. And then, see, you guys are lucky now. We have these new straps that work really, really well. Don't have to use these Velcro straps anymore. These Velcro straps are a little bit more work. So for the purpose of this video, I'm only going to install 2 of them so that you guys don't have to see me struggle with those Velcro straps. Then I'm going to make sure I remove the cap here for the ADV. And then I'm going to install the breathing loop. Make sure that my ADV inlet hose is going to be facing the correct direction. Just like everything else, I'm going to line up those bayonet dots, and I'm going to push it in, and then I'm going to push it and rotate it. There we go. Make sure that, and then take this ADV hose. Now remember, you're going to be going over this with your Sidemount Liberty crossover instructor, and they're going to be walking you through each of these steps, just as you go through all of these steps through your checklist on the Divesoft app. There we go. It's nice and flush. Then I'm going to take my other hose. I'm going to get the dot on here. Now remember, when I install it, it's going to want to rotate inboard. So I'll have to rotate it, line up the dots, push it right in, and then rotate it so everything's nice and flush. And our next step is I'm going to take my get my oxygen hose, my diluent hose. Now my oxygen hose is going to go on my right side, or I could say my Liberty starboard side, right? And I'm not going to install those just yet. Take my diluent, and I'm going to install this guy down. I like to use these bungees. They do a really good job retaining all the hoses. There's a couple of other ways you can do it. And I can put the pressure gauges right in here so that they're not dangling about too much. And then my heads up display. Now I'm going to make sure this guy's nice and streamlined going up my right hose. I'm sorry, my exhale side. And then sometimes I'll like to give it one little rotation like that. Sometimes it's good to have another bungee up here on the elbow. Does a good job kind of retaining it, especially if you have the ODA. The ODA, you want to have a bungee up here. And then I'll have another bungee up here that has a bolt snap on it, so I can clip it off and I can secure the mouthpiece. Works really good when we're diving with the unit in a bailout configuration, but that's for another episode. Then I'm going to remove all my caps, which I hope everyone's been counting, and they can tell me how many caps were in this video. Then I'm going to install the diluent MAV. There we go. Then I'm going to remove my oxygen cap. Keep everything nice and clean, nice and secured. Now remember, all these caps do come with your unit, so there's no reason to not have the caps, guys. All right. And then, now I have my oxygen MAV installed. I have my diluent MAV installed. Now, I don't over tighten it. We have these O-rings on here that's just so that you don't over torque it. I never put a wrench on anything. You see, I do everything with finger tight. And then what I like to do is I like to have a bungee right here, and then I'll go ahead and I'll take this handset and I'll put it right in that bungee. And there we go. And then we have our Liberty side mount built from our conversion kit from our back mount unit. There we go. Now that we've completed the Divesoft Liberty side mount conversion kit build, you are ready to take it and go diving. So just like always, if you guys have any other questions, please reach out to us through our email or on any of our social media platforms, or just take a look at divesoft.com. Remember, the conversion kits are on the Liberty configurator, so go ahead and take a look there and build your Liberty. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.